The family intervention took place in Mom's pristine living room on a Sunday afternoon in November, complete with coffee service and the kind of staged concern that looked good from the outside. I sat on the familiar floral sofa where I'd spent countless childhood hours, now 31 years old and facing a tribunal of relatives who'd decided my cancer was a performance. "We're worried about you, honey," Mom began, her voice dripping with the particular condescension she reserved for what she called my episodes. "This whole cancer story has gotten out of hand. It's time to stop." My sister Jessica nodded from the wingback chair, her perfectly manicured fingers wrapped around her designer coffee mug. "It's been 8 months, Mia. 8 months of missed family dinners, cancelled plans and constant drama about treatments and side effects. We know attention-seeking when we see it." The irony wasn't lost on me that they'd scheduled this intervention for 2 p.m. on a Sunday, exactly when I should have been at my weekly chemotherapy appointment. I'd skipped treatment to attend this family meeting at Mom's insistence, something my oncology team had strongly advised against. "Think about it logically," my older brother Ryan interjected, settling his bulk into Dad's recliner like a judge taking the bench. "If Mia really had cancer, wouldn't we have seen her at a hospital? Wouldn't there be obvious signs? She just looks tired." Tired. That was their medical assessment of stage 3 breast cancer and 8 months of aggressive chemotherapy. I touched the edge of my wig unconsciously, the expensive, natural-looking hairpiece that had cost me 3 months of freelance income but allowed me to maintain the illusion of health they seemed to require. "Plus," Aunt Carol chimed in from the kitchen doorway, "the timing is suspicious. Right after Jessica's promotion at the law firm, suddenly Mia has this dramatic illness that requires constant attention and support." The timing was indeed suspicious, if you ignored the fact that I'd discovered the lump 3 days before Jessica's promotion party and had spent the celebration in the emergency room getting my first biopsy. But facts had never been this family's strong suit when a good narrative was available. "What bothers me most," Dad added, finally speaking up from his position by the fireplace, "is how this affects the family dynamic. Jessica's wedding planning, Ryan's new business, your mother's book club obligations. Everything gets derailed because Mia needs to be the center of attention." I'd been financially supporting Ryan's new business for 6 months, even while managing my own medical expenses. The cancer treatment had cost me nearly $40,000 out of pocket, but I'd still managed to cover his startup costs because family helped family. Apparently, that philosophy didn't extend to believing family when they said they were fighting for their lives. "Here's what we've decided," Mom announced, clearly the designated spokesperson for this medical tribunal. "We want you to see Dr. Patterson. You remember him from the country club? He's a psychiatrist and he specializes in people who develop elaborate medical fantasies." Dr. Patterson. The same man who'd been censured by the medical board 3 years ago for inappropriate patient relationships but had managed to keep his license through family connections. Their choice of mental health professional told me everything I needed to know about their commitment to actual help. "We're not trying to shame you," Jessica added quickly, though her tone suggested otherwise. "We just think you've gotten so deep into this story that you might actually believe it now. It's like a psychological break from reality." A psychological break from reality. That's what they called the daily reality of managing chemotherapy side effects, the bone-deep exhaustion that made simple tasks monumental, the neuropathy that left my fingers numb and clumsy, the nausea that turned every meal into a strategic battle. What they didn't know, what none of them knew, was that my treatment team at Regional Medical Center was headed by Dr. Margaret Sullivan, who also served as president of the hospital board of directors. The same Dr. Sullivan who'd pioneered breast cancer treatment protocols now used nationwide. The same Dr. Sullivan who'd taken a personal interest in my case after learning about the family situation affecting my treatment compliance. "We love you, Mia," Mom concluded, "but this needs to stop. No more missed family events for fake appointments. No more dramatic stories about treatments and side effects. It's time to rejoin reality." I looked around the room at their expectant faces, these people who'd raised me and claimed to love me, who were now demanding I admit that my cancer was an elaborate lie designed to inconvenience their social calendars. "You want the truth?" I asked quietly, pulling out my phone. "You'll have it tomorrow morning." What they didn't know was that Dr. Sullivan had been planning to address the family situation for months. Build up, 600 to 800 words. The family meeting continued for another hour, with each relative contributing their own theory about my supposed deception. The coffee grew cold as they dissected my behavior with the confidence of people who'd watched too many medical dramas and mistook television for education. "I've been doing research," Ryan announced, pulling out his phone with the air of someone about to deliver groundbreaking evidence. "Factitious disorder. That's when people fake illnesses for attention." All of Mia's symptoms matched the profile perfectly. Aunt Carol nodded enthusiastically. "That explains everything. The timing, the secrecy about treatments, even why she always looks healthier than she claims to feel." The secrecy they referenced was actually HIPAA compliance. My reluctance to share detailed medical information with people who'd proven they couldn't handle basic facts with compassion. But privacy had been reframed as suspicious behavior in their narrative. "What really concerns me," Jessica added, crossing her legs with lawyer-like precision, "is the financial aspect. Mia's been asking for help with medical bills. But if there's no real treatment happening, where's that money actually going?" The financial help had amounted to exactly one request, asking if they could contribute to the co-pays for my monthly oncology appointments, which ran $800 each after insurance. They declined, citing budget concerns, then spent $3,000 on Jessica's engagement party the following week. "I think we need to demand proof," Dad declared, clearly warming to his role as family investigator. "Real medical records that can be verified. Not just paper she could have printed at home." Mom clapped her hands together with the delight of someone who'd found the perfect solution. "Yes. Dr. Patterson can review any medical documents and tell us if they're legitimate. He's very good at spotting inconsistencies in patient stories." The idea that a psychiatrist facing professional sanctions would be qualified to authenticate oncology records was so absurd it would have been funny if it weren't my life they were discussing. But logic had abandoned this conversation hours ago. "Plus," Ryan added, "if Mia really had cancer, wouldn't her doctors want to meet us? Wouldn't they insist on family conferences and support group involvement? The fact that we've never met any of her supposed medical team is telling. They'd never met my medical team because they'd never asked to. When I'd invited them to join me for a consultation with Dr. Sullivan 3 months ago, Mom had declined because it conflicted with her book club schedule. When I'd suggested they attend a treatment planning meeting, Jessica had said she was too busy with work stuff. When I'd asked if anyone wanted to drive me to my port surgery, Dad had suggested I take an Uber because it was more convenient for everyone. "Here's what I think happened," Aunt Carol said, settling in for what was clearly her favorite part of the intervention. "Mia saw how much attention Jessica got during her engagement and her bar exam stress, and she needed something bigger. Cancer gets sympathy, people asking how you're doing, family rallying around you. It's the perfect attention magnet." The attention magnet had resulted in 8 months of isolation, financial strain, and physical misery that had fundamentally changed my relationship with my own body. If this was a strategy for getting family support, it had backfired spectacularly. "What we're asking isn't unreasonable," Mom said, adopting her most reasonable tone. "Just admit this has gotten out of hand, see Dr. Patterson for some counseling about why you felt the need to create this elaborate story, and we can all move forward as a family." Moving forward as a family apparently meant pretending I hadn't spent the last 8 months fighting for my life while they'd systematically dismissed every aspect of my experience. It meant admitting that my hair loss, weight loss, and chronic fatigue were products of imagination rather than chemotherapy. "I've already made an appointment with Dr. Patterson for Tuesday," Jessica added, pulling out her phone. "He's excited to help you work through whatever psychological factors led to this situation." My phone buzzed with a text message from Dr. Sullivan's office, confirming our Monday morning meeting. The same meeting where she'd planned to address the family dynamics that had been negatively affecting my treatment outcomes. "Fine," I said quietly, standing to gather my purse. "We'll settle this tomorrow morning." What they didn't know was that Dr. Sullivan had been documenting their behavior in my medical files for months, noting how family denial was creating additional stress during treatment. What they also didn't know was that as hospital board president, she had little tolerance for situations that compromised patient care. Monday morning was going to be educational for everyone involved. Dr. Margaret Sullivan entered the hospital conference room like the force of nature that had earned her both medical degrees from Johns Hopkins and a reputation for revolutionizing patient care standards. At 55, she commanded respect through decades of saved lives and institutional leadership that had transformed Regional Medical Center into a nationally recognized cancer treatment facility. "Good morning," she said, her voice carrying the authority of someone who regularly briefed medical boards and congressional committees on healthcare policy. "I'm Dr. Sullivan, President of the Hospital Board of Directors and Chief of Oncology. Thank you for finally agreeing to meet regarding Mia's treatment." My family sat arranged around the conference table like defendants awaiting judgment. Mom clutched her purse with white knuckles. Ryan kept checking his phone as if expecting an escape route to materialize. Jessica had gone completely silent, her legal training apparently insufficient for the current situation. "Before we begin," Dr. Sullivan continued, opening a thick medical file, "I want to address the family dynamics that have been significantly impacting patient care outcomes." She spread the first set of documents across the polished conference table with clinical precision. "These are Mia's pathology reports from her initial diagnosis 8 months ago. Stage 3 invasive ductal carcinoma with lymph node involvement." Dad leaned forward, squinting at the medical terminology that might as well have been written in hieroglyphics. "But, we thought. You thought she was faking cancer?" Dr. Sullivan's eyebrows rose with professional interest. "I see. That's been noted extensively in her psychological evaluation files." She produced another set of documents. "This is Mia's chemotherapy protocol, 8 cycles of dose-dense ACT treatment, doxorubicin, cyclophosphamide and paclitaxel. The side effects include complete alopecia, severe nausea, neuropathy and compromised immune function." Mom's face had gone gray as she stared at the treatment schedules that detailed exactly what I'd been enduring while they'd accused me of seeking attention. "Her treatment compliance has been excellent despite significant family stressors." Dr. Sullivan's voice grew colder with each word. "However, her psychological distress scores have been concerning due to lack of family support during critical treatment phases." She opened a separate folder with the efficiency of someone who'd spent years documenting medical realities for families in denial. "As hospital board president, I've rarely encountered a case where family members have so actively undermined a patient's treatment process." Ryan found his voice, though it came out smaller than usual. We didn't know it was real. She never showed us actual proof. Mia has invited family members to medical appointments multiple times." Dr. Sullivan consulted her notes with surgical precision. "All invitations were declined due to scheduling conflicts including book club meetings, work obligations and social events." The conference room fell silent except for the sound of Jessica's pen dropping onto the table. "Furthermore," Dr. Sullivan continued, "her financial stress has been documented as affecting treatment decisions. She's delayed appointments due to inability to afford copays while simultaneously providing financial support to family members who questioned her diagnosis." She closed the medical file with the finality of a judgment delivered. "In 30 years of oncology practice, I've never had a patient's own family actively work against their treatment success. It's been professionally disturbing." Aunt Carol made a small choking sound as the weight of 8 months of denial crashed into medical reality. "Mia's 5-year survival rate with completed treatment is 85%, Dr. Sullivan concluded. "Without treatment, her life expectancy would have been measured in months. The fact that she's maintained treatment compliance despite family hostility shows remarkable strength." The statistics hung in the air like a medical verdict none of them were qualified to appeal. Dr. Sullivan packed her files with the practiced efficiency of someone who'd delivered more devastating news than my family would ever comprehend. As she prepared to leave, she handed each family member a comprehensive packet about supporting cancer patients and the psychological impact of family denial during treatment. "Should you have questions about breast cancer, chemotherapy protocols, or how family behavior affects patient outcomes," she said, her voice carrying the weight of institutional authority, "these materials provide evidence-based guidance." The aftermath unfolded with the swift justice that only medical reality could deliver. Ryan's business colleagues learned about his cancer diagnosis expertise when the story spread through his professional network. Mom's book club dissolved after members questioned associating with someone who'd publicly dismissed her daughter's cancer. Dad's reputation in their community never recovered from the revelation that he'd refused to support his daughter during life-threatening illness. Jessica's law firm partnership track derailed when partners learned she'd advised psychological evaluation for a family member undergoing chemotherapy. Turns out, questioning someone's cancer diagnosis while they're paying for your wedding expenses creates liability concerns in professional environments. By the following week, the family dynamic had shifted permanently. The financial support they'd grown accustomed to, emergency loans, bill coverage, and holiday funding, disappeared along with their credibility. Difficult to ask for money from someone whose cancer you'd called imaginary. I completed my treatment 3 months later with Dr. Sullivan's team celebrating each milestone. My medical outcome improved steadily. My family relationships remained terminal. The Monday morning meeting photos, taken for hospital documentation, captured everything. The moment medical authority confronted willful ignorance, the instant a board president educated a room full of amateur diagnosticians, and the precise second they realized they'd gambled their daughter's life against their own assumptions. Dr. Sullivan had done more than defend my diagnosis. She'd revealed who my family truly was when I needed them most, and provided legal documentation of their behavior that would follow them through our community for years. Some relationships don't survive medical reality. Some aren't worth saving. I spent the holidays with Dr. Sullivan's research team, fellow survivors who understood that strength looked different than expected, and that real support came from people who believed you when you said you were fighting to live.